Hi, and welcome to this week's DBT skill. We are going to continue in our distress tolerance module. So, to give an outline of what to expect today, we're going to start with an opening mindfulness exercise. I will then review the skill that we covered in our previous video, and then we will move forward with several distress tolerance skills today. So, in a moment here, you should be able to see the whiteboard. And I'm going to incorporate a skill that we're actually going to be covering and talking more about later in this video, which is our self-soothe strategy. With self-soothe, we want to engage our five senses. So I put them here: taste, smell, hear, see, and feel. The idea behind this exercise is to create an accessible toolkit that you can use really whenever, when you're distressed, when you're wanting to just have some time to yourself, when you just want to get cozy. You can really use this at any point when you want to. And it's meant to be there for when you are struggling or when you're feeling big emotions to help regulate and use the things around us that activate the senses, because that can help elicit like a calm response. So I'm going to invite everyone to take 3 to 5 minutes to survey your space right now. So I'm not sure if you're in your room or in an area in your house, your home, but to try and find one item that fits each of these senses. And maybe you just gather these items together, whether you put them in an actual box or not, or put them in a place that you can easily get to when you need them. I'm going to give some examples of things that I've collected for today to share. And then I'm going to invite you to pause this video and then collect the items that are around you. And you can get as creative as you want with these things. So, as I'm actually recording this video, it is the winter time and it actually is snowing right now. So, my items that I have collected right now are in response to the season and it being colder out. So, that's just to give some context there. So, for taste, I have a warm cup of hot chocolate in my mug and have packets of hot chocolate in my kitchen if I need some more. For smell, I have a candle. I did not light it yet, but I will be lighting this at some point today. For here, I use Spotify on my phone, and Spotify has a lot of different playlists that I create and then are also created for me. So I actually have a cozy wintertime playlist on my phone that it has some soothing and like background noise music. So something that I see, I have a book that I hope to read a little bit later on today, and something I feel is a cozy blanket that I have on my lap. So those are examples of 5 ways that I'm using self-soothe right now, as well as along my day today. So go ahead and pause, take a few minutes to gather some items, and then when you're ready, you can come back. All right. So now that you're back, I just want you to take a moment to think about what it was like to gather those items, how these items typically make you feel. Is there anything that you need to do to make these items easily accessible to you? Whether it's, again, putting them in a box, putting them somewhere where you can see them in a corner in your room. I invite you to do that. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to review the tip skill, which is what we learned and reviewed last week. All right, so you should be able to see the workbook that I'm following along with. So the tip skill is, again, we're in our distress tolerance module, is meant to help when our emotions are really high. It is meant to help bring that physiological response down. And what I mean by that is our body's response. So when we're feeling an intense emotion, oftentimes we're feeling it on a really physical level. So we might feel our heartbeat beating really fast. We might start to sweat. We might start to feel like that pit in our stomach, or we're feeling really tense in our body. And so these skills are really meant to help release some of that to help bring those sensations down so they don't feel as intense. So the T in tip stands for temperature. So changing the temperature of your body. So this could be splashing cold water, grabbing an ice pack. This could be taking a cold bowl of water, dunking your face in. You can really get creative here. I always encourage folks that if they are on the go, to maybe have an ice pack ready available to them. And you can get like one of those ice packs that aren't activated until you snap them or break them in half. They're like one-time use ice packs, but they're great to maybe just have in your backpacks or in your purses to have if you are needing to use this when you're out and about and when you're maybe not at home and don't have a regular ice pack available to you. The I is intense exercise. So this is meant to be a short-term physical release, like especially when you're feeling really revved up, have pent-up energy, and need to get it out in a way. So we want to maybe increase our heart rate for a short amount of time. Anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes is a really great time mark. This could just be like jogging in place, doing jumping jacks, ups, anything that kind of gets your heart rate up. And then there's two more that begin with P. Paced breathing is the next one. Practice like slowing our breath down to help regulate our nervous system. So breathing in and then slowly releasing and exhaling and really holding that exhale a little bit longer than that inhale. Again, that is meant to activate that parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calm response. And then the last one is paired muscle relaxation or progressive muscle relaxation, which is squeezing and tightening specific muscles one at a time. I always say to folks, like start from like the top of your head and work all the way down to your toes, but you're doing things like if I was working on my hands, like squeezing your muscles and then slowly releasing them. There's a lot of great videos online that you can follow along to. If you just type in progressive muscle relaxation or PMR exercises, a ton will come up. If you also use like a mindfulness app, there's oftentimes many progressive muscle relaxation exercises. And for more like detailed information on this skill, please revisit the last video where we go over a little bit more in depth. But just take a moment to reflect, like how did you use this skill this week? What stood out to you? What did you notice? If there's any questions or barriers that you had with this skill, I invite you to please bring them to your next group or to your individual therapist so you can troubleshoot those things. All right. So for today, we're going to just keep moving along. We have a few skills that we're going to be covering today. So we're going to talk about distraction techniques. The intent behind distraction techniques is that they're used intentionally. So oftentimes when I'm talking with somebody and they're sharing about how they're coping, distraction techniques are often, I would say, the most popular form of coping mechanisms that people will share and talk about. And yes, there is a time and place for it. So we're going to talk about like when is the best time to use distraction techniques. Distraction techniques are really meant for when you're experiencing really intense emotions and you need to just get through the moment. When you don't want to make the situation worse, you don't want to act on impulse, we don't want to act in a target behavior. So that would be the perfect time to use a distraction technique. And we'll talk about what some of these might look like in a moment here. Distraction techniques are not helpful when we're using them all the time for everyday emotions, for low to medium kind of intensity in our emotions. And the reason that those distraction techniques are not helpful for us in those moments is because it actually takes us away from feeling that emotion, when really it's important for us to experience and work through emotions as they come. But again, if our emotions are really intense or in a crisis situation, distractions are an awesome technique. So I just wanted to specify like when to use them versus when it might not be helpful. And if you're having trouble figuring out, was this a good time to use a distraction technique? Was it not? Again, I invite you to bring that up in your individual sessions because It could be really helpful to talk through a little bit more. I think another question to ask yourself is, are you using these skills on a daily basis? Does it feel like you're constantly going to distraction techniques? That could be an indicator that you might be overusing them, and we might need to pull back a little bit and try some other techniques to work through the emotion. Okay. Our distraction technique DBT skill is called accepts. And the accepts is another acronym in DBT to help us remind us different ways that we can distract. So there's lots of different coping strategies to help us get through difficult crisis situations, again, without acting on impulse or making things worse. All right. So let's talk this through. What to know here. When your emotions feel like they are on fire, crisis survival skills can help you get through the moment. Distraction techniques are meant to be used when emotions are intense and overwhelming in the moment. They are intended to help refrain from acting on impulse and engaging in a target behavior, like I mentioned. Okay, so the A stands for activities. So this is really just going to any activities that can help take your mind off things. This could be enjoyable activities that you really like. So for instance, if you're really resonate with being active, maybe it's doing a physical activity. For some, it might be journaling or reading or watching TV, listening to music. I could do a whole segment here of talking about different activities. So really brainstorming what are your go-to activities that help you maybe get out of your mind for a little bit, help break up some of the thoughts, help just really truly help you get in the moment and pulling away from the crisis situation in a way. Um, so for me, I really enjoy doing yoga, walking, reading, watching TV. Those are some of like my go-to activities when I need to have a break or when I'm really struggling, I will turn to doing some of those activities. The next part in accepts is a C, and it's contributing. So contributing is all about trying to contribute to others, contribute to our community, to give back, to do something for someone else. There's lots of different examples of this. It could go as far as like volunteering or helping out, especially if that's something that you really enjoy. And it could also be something like sending a text to a friend and letting them know how much they mean to you. So it doesn't have to be something that like takes up a lot of your time, but it could be something really simple of sending a message to somebody, letting them know how much you really value their friendship, doing something for them, whether it's maybe buying them a cup of coffee, or I recently had somebody in my life that was sick. I made them a meal. So sometimes just doing that can bring us a sense of fulfillment. It can bring a sense of joy of helping someone else, which in turn can help us again distract from a painful experience. Okay, the next C is comparisons. So this is often just trying to shift perspective a little bit in comparing what we're going through in the moment. And what I mean by shift perspective is thinking about comparing yourself to either someone else in your life or someone else that might be going through something, and recognizing that you might not be going through something as challenging. It could also be comparing. You can use comparison to compare to a time in your life when you've maybe felt worse. For instance, an example could be like, oh, I really struggled so much when COVID happened and during the pandemic that look at how far I've come. I can get through this as well. If I can get through that, I can get through this. And using that comparison a little bit of, I went through this really difficult time and look at where I am right now. And so sometimes that can really help us in the moment get through something difficult. With the comparison to other people, some people really like that. Some people also can find it to be a little bit invalidating. So I think, again, this is all going to be really individualized of what works for you. I'm offering and going through different ideas and suggestions just because you never know what's going to land or what's going to help you. So just keeping that in mind, it works for some people. It might not work for you, and that's okay. All right, the next one, E, emotions. This is trying to change your emotion experience. This could be like if you're feeling really sad, maybe you turn on a funny show or a funny movie to try and bring out a different emotion, the opposite emotion. That is like my go-to example here. I think like when I'm feeling really sad, I used to always put on Schitt's Creek, which is a really funny show. And again, it could just maybe comedy isn't for you. Maybe you put on a scary show or you put on a scary movie, but something that's going to change that emotional experience. That is what emotions is. The P in accept stands for pushing away. So something a metaphor I like to use is almost thinking about taking the situation and putting it in a box, putting it on a shelf, thinking about how can I push this away temporarily, right? Not forever. Because we know if we just push away and continue to push away, it tends to build back up and resurface. So this is meant to be, again, a temporary thing. I'm just going to briefly push it away, shelve it, put it away, put it in a lockbox somewhere. For you, maybe it's writing things down and then tucking it away, putting it away to revisit when we're maybe at a different place. The T in accept stands for changing our thoughts. So doing an exercise or something that is going to help replace the thoughts in our brain. So this could examples like this, I think of doing a puzzle, solving a problem somehow. Maybe you throw yourself into homework or doing your math homework. For me, I love doing like the Wordle or connections online. So those are like just like some more, I guess, like brain puzzles to pull myself out of what might be going on in that crisis moment. So it changes the thoughts. Sensations. So, similar to what we did in our opening mindfulness exercise today, using our senses here to change this sensory experience. So, this could be if we want to try to change what we're feeling in our mouth. Maybe we cut up a piece of lemon and we take a bite of a lemon, which is going to have like something really sour and create like a more intense experience that's maybe going to take our mind off of another sensation that we're feeling that is maybe not pleasant. So something really sour, something really sweet, maybe something really spicy is going to help change that sensation. And again, you could do this with any of the other senses. Maybe there's some noise going on in your environment that is really disruptive and dysregulating. So maybe you put on noise canceling headphones and you put some white noise on or something soothing or classical music, whatever it might be, that's changing the sensation that you're currently experiencing. So those are just some examples here. I want you to take a moment to think about what stands out to you. Maybe you've tried some of these things already and think about what has worked, what maybe hasn't, and think about something that you would actually really like to try over the next week. All right. So these are just going to be more examples of how to practice this. So I already went through some of these examples. I'll quickly run through this just in case there's anything that I might have missed or didn't elaborate on. But again, just to recap activities. So engaging in different activities to distract the mind, getting physical, busy with music, movement, music, be trying a new recipe, really engaging in preferred leisure hobbies. Another way to get some ideas could be to use the alphabet and see if you can come up with an activity for each letter. If you are in a rut or really stuck with thinking about what are some activities that you could do, just a little helpful tip there. Contributing, helping others can also be a way to improve mood and temporarily feel better. Many times people can feel good about helping someone, whether it is cooking a meal for someone, sending a thoughtful text or note, volunteering, donating, or lending an ear to listen. Comparisons. Think of a time when things were worse and remember how to get through it. Reminding yourself of how you can get through painful situations can help put the current experience into perspective by noticing what has worked in the past. Folks can also use comparisons to notice how other people may be in more challenging situations. Emotions. Engage in something to evoke the opposite emotion. If you're feeling sad, watch a funny movie. If you're angry, listen to upbeat music. Act opposite in the moment. P, pushing away. Temporarily set aside emotions and thoughts to help you get through a situation. Imagine putting the situation on a shelf and returning to it at a later time. Thoughts, replace thoughts with different thoughts, such as engaging in a puzzle, reading a book, playing a word game, something to replace those thoughts. And then sensations, create new sensations within your body to offset the current experience. Examples: eating a lemon, taking a warm or cold bath, drinking something cold or hot, putting on fuzzy socks. All right, examples here. There are times when difficult emotions can be hard to handle. And this week, you'll learn over 100 coping skills to manage these emotions in the moment. Let's say you're feeling sad after a breakup. Instead of wallowing in sadness, you can try engaging in activities that bring you joy, like listening to uplifting music, going for a walk in nature, or talking to a supportive friend. By practicing these skills, you can work towards distracting yourself in the moment to get through a difficult situation. So, what activities have helped you when you are having a difficult time? Take a few moments to reflect, write some things down. You can go ahead and pause this video if you need to. Next, just to do a story time to bring this skill home. Nolan, him, was noticing his emotions escalating when he received a failing grade on his final project. He started feeling intense anxiety and frustration and had the urge to engage in a target behavior. Instead, he practiced changing his thoughts and replacing them by playing Wordle on his phone. He then decided to continue reading the mystery crime book to help consume his mind with the story. After reading several chapters, the urge to engage in a target behavior started to decrease. Okay. All right. Let's talk about how we can practice this at home. So you can practice this with yourself by creating a list of 5 activities that bring you comfort or joy. Practice one self-soothing activity each day for a week and reflect on how it affects your emotional state. Share your list of this is all about self-soothing here. So we're actually going to talk about that in a moment. But how you can do this with the self too, when you're thinking about your 5 activities here, you can think about your preferred leisure activities. You can list 5 activities that have helped you during a difficult time or that you feel like you could try when you are struggling. With a peer, maybe even sharing that list with a friend or even asking your friends, like, hey, what do you do when you really struggle? What are the go-to activities? Or do you have a playlist that you could share with me? Listening to music is something that really helps you. And with a parent, ask them, show your list with your parent and see if there's anything that they do or see if there's any similarities or differences. Maybe also thinking about, so that has to deal with the A and accepts, right? Activities. But another example of how to do this with a peer or a parent is maybe trying the contribute skill this week of doing something really kind to a friend or a caregiver. So sending them a message, maybe doing something for them might be really helpful, making us temporarily feel better. Your turn this week is practicing the accept skill and filling out these questions here. How have you practiced the accept skill with either yourself, a peer, or a caregiver? Was it effective? What did you notice? What was different when practicing the accept skill? And how did you feel before and after you practiced the accept skill? So remember, not all DBT skills are intended to make you feel better, and that is okay, right? It is effective if you are able to get through the moment and not engage in target behavior. You might not feel all that much better, right? You might still feel pretty intense emotions, but if you didn't engage in a target behavior, that is still a really huge win. And that is the skill working. All right. So self-soothe now we're going to get into. We can use this strategy to distract by using our 5 senses to help mindfully feel calmer and more grounded in the moment. Okay. So again, we tapped into this a little bit in our opening mindfulness, but it's really using sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. And here are some examples and ways to practice that. So, sight. Maybe you want to think about dimming your lighting, using a sleep mask if it's helpful for you to be in a darker environment. Envision a calming place. Draw images using calming colors. Picture a safe place. Maybe you light a candle because that, which would be sight and smell, but that can still help with just setting the vibe of the room. Maybe you looking at nature around you, watch a sunrise or sunset. And I imagine you can list several more things here, but those are just some examples. Sound. Listen to calming music or nature sounds. Maybe playing ASMR, listening to guided meditations, maybe humming a familiar song. Notice the sounds around you. Making a soothing playlist. Pay attention to the sound of your breath. Those are all different ways that we can incorporate sound. Something not listed here that I actually really enjoy that I don't have with me is like a sound bowl. Maybe your therapist has one in their office, or if you've been to a yoga class, sometimes they will use sound bowls, which can just be really helpful. You can even Google sound bowls, and it's like a very soothing kind of sound. Touch here. So maybe snuggling with your pet, wearing something soft, put on fuzzy socks, sit by a warm fire, maybe using a weighted blanket or a really cozy fuzzy blanket, wear your most comfortable outfit, put clean sheets on your bed, which sometimes can feel really nice when you go in bed and you have warm, clean, crisp sheets. Maybe you ask for a hug from a friend or a peer. Take a drive with the windows down, feel the breeze. These are all examples of how you can use touch or that sensation of feeling. Smell. Put on your favorite lotion, burn your favorite scented candle, incense, breathe in a cup of coffee, or bake your favorite cookies or dessert. Sometimes just having that smell in the kitchen can feel so warm, inviting, cozy, comforting. And then taste. Drinking something warm, mindfully eating something that brings you comfort. Enjoy your favorite food. Intuitively eat something that has nostalgic or settling flavors. Great. So those are just some examples of how we can use our senses to distract ourselves when we're in distress situations. Okay. Example. How you soothe yourself evolves throughout your lifetime. When you were a baby, you needed your caregiver to help soothe you. You may also needed specific items like a pacifier, a bottle, or the motion of rocking in a swing. As you begin to get older, this starts to shift as you learn ways to cope on your own and find other items that bring you comfort. Being a teenager is when you start depending less on your caregivers to regulate and to start to lean into independently coping. Some ways to do that are by activating your five senses. For example, you may enjoy sitting with a weighted blanket, listening to music. You may also enjoy drinking a cup of tea and coloring. By practicing these skills, you can soothe yourself and feel better. So take a few moments to think about what are ways you like to self-soothe. Note them below. So go ahead, write them down, maybe make a list of things that are helpful for you. Go ahead and pause the video, and then we'll come back. Okay. Scotty, who uses she, her pronouns, was prompted to create a self-soothe toolkit to keep in her room for times of high distress. Here's what she put in a box that will be under her bed to access when needed. So we did this earlier. So similar to Scotty, we also created a self-soothe toolkit. So you already had some practice with this, but let's see what Scotty put in hers. Sight, pictures of her dogs, her family at her favorite vacation spot, and pictures of nature. Another cool thing that you could also do with those pictures, or what Scotty could do as well, is create a collage of them. Sometimes just having that like visual, like a visual board collage can just be really helpful to have all your favorite things in one snapshot. excuse me, sound. A printed copy of her favorite playlists and nature sounds so she can be prompted to pull out her phone and open Spotify. Touch. A bag of cotton balls to hold in her hand, a warm scarf, and hand warmers. Smell. Scotty's favorite scent is lavender, so she put lavender scented lotion and essential oil in her box. And then taste. A box of mints, hard chocolate candies, and a rosemary tea bag. So those are just some examples of what Scotty did. Maybe there's some things that resonate with you or some ideas that you have that you might want to even add to your toolkit. All right, home practice. So these are what were listed earlier. So I'll just go through them again. Ways that you can do this by yourself, creating a list of 5 activities that bring you comfort or joy. Practice 1 self-soothing activity each day for the week and reflect on how it affects your emotional state. You can do this with a peer, sharing your list of self-soothing activities with your friend. Choose one activity to do together, such as listening to music or drawing. Discuss how it made you feel and offer support to each other. And then a caregiver or parent. So show your parent your list of self-soothing activities. Pick one activity to do together, like taking a walk or enjoying a favorite treat. Share your experiences and express gratitude for their support. And then you're just going to note them here, how and answer these questions over this next week. So share how you practice the self-soothe skill with either yourself, a peer, or caregiver this week. Was it effective? What did you notice? What was different when practicing the self-soothe skills? And then here, how did you feel before and after you practiced self-soothe skills? Write the emotion and the intensity before and after. Remember, not all DBT skills are intended to make you feel better, and that is okay. All right. This is a big module, so we have one more skill to cover today, which is improve the moment. Improve the moment by doing something that could change the situation, even if it's 1% better. So when we're in a crisis situation or feeling really intense, think about one way that you could try and change or shift the moment. Okay. So what to know? Improve the moment is intended to help you get through a crisis situation and tolerate difficult emotions when you may not be able to solve the problem right away. Use improve to remember the following. So similar to the accept skill, improve stands for, it's an acronym. So each letter in improve stands for a different skill or way that you can practice this. So the I stands for imagery, M is meaning, P is prayer, R is relaxation, O is one thing at a time, V is vacation, and E is encouragement. So let's break this down and talk about each one. All right, so how to practice. Imagery. Change your scenery. Look at a calming picture, imagine a calm scene or a peaceful place. So this can really be like thinking about just like visualizing what that calm space is for you, whether it's your bedroom or sitting on a beach or being on a nature walk in the mountains, like thinking about just any sort of calm scene that helps you in that moment. You can also practice this. The way to practice this would be maybe in your individual therapy session where your therapist could guide you through visualizing a scene. So you may have practiced this already in some capacity, but it's called guided imagery, where somebody is guiding you through visualizing a specific scene. Even if you Googled guided imagery scripts, you can find some as well. Or even on YouTube, if you wanted to look at different guided imageries, there's definitely a lot of different options out there that you could give a try. The M stands for meaning. So listen to calming music or nature sounds, maybe playing ASMR, listen to guided meditations like I was just describing. Oh, wait, I think there's a typo here because there's a little bit more to this. So that actually shouldn't be there. So I apologize. But meaning here is trying to create meaning out of the situation that you're in. So, is there anything that you are doing that in this moment, even if it is really hard and painful, that you're learning, that you're growing? Is there any sort of meaning that you can make of this situation? Has this painful situation brought you closer to somebody in your life? Is there any sort of other meaning here that has been helpful for you? A lot of times we may not be able to find that meaning until after the situation when you're like, wow, I really grown from that experience. But taking a moment to reflect on that. And even when in the moment too, is there anything that I can learn or can grow? Or is there anything that I can pull from this experience? So I also apologize. There's another typo here. So prayer is the next one, which is really can be based in religion if you practice a religion. So using prayer as a way to thinking about using a higher power to help us get through a situation. Again, that's going to look really individualized depending on your religious beliefs. But also, if you're not religious, you can still pull on this idea of like spirituality or connection in some way to some sort of higher divine power. Again, if that resonates with you. Relaxation. So thinking about what are the things that bring you that sense of peace? What are the things that um, give you sense of comfort? This can really pull into your self-soothe strategies, as we learned a few moments ago. But thinking about what is relaxing for you, and is there anything that helps in that moment? So for me, at the end of the night, sometimes I just like to lay like down with a warm blanket, sometimes a heating pad, and sometimes that just brings this overall sense of relaxation. One thing in the moment. This is all about just doing one thing, pulling into our one mindfulness skill here, which is just trying to do one thing. Maybe it's like a grounding technique, maybe it's just one thing to help with, especially when we're in a crisis situation. Our mind might be racing. We might be having a lot of thoughts going on. So being able to, and we also might feel like we're being pulled in different directions. So this skill can really help us like recenter by just picking one thing to do to help you get through the moment. If I'm in a really difficult situation and I'm feeling very overwhelmed with everything that I have going on, doing one thing in the moment might actually help me pause, take a step back, and refocus a little bit. The V in vacation, taking a vacation or a break from situation, temporarily putting aside the situation. So this doesn't mean drop what you're doing and go to Aruba. If that's something that you can do, amazing. And maybe it is like planning actual vacation. And this does the, that can be literally, but it also can just be like taking a break, hitting the pause button, taking a break from the situation, putting it aside, taking like a mental vacation, right? And so this really could be just like, you know what? I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to go for a walk. And that can just be that like mental break that you might need. So it doesn't have to be a literal vacation. It can be, and it can just be taking a break in the moment, taking a mental vacation from what it is that you have to do. Um, and I guess another example could be maybe taking a mental health day, right? So if you're feeling super overwhelmed, maybe you just need a day to reset, a day to get yourself together to then be able to move forward. All right, the last one here, be your own cheerleader using positive mantras. So sometimes we might just need some that extra encouragement, being our own hype person. Maybe we're writing down some mantras that are really helpful for us, statements or positive quotes that we have found to be really inspiring, uplifting, thinking about what it is that you would want to be told from other people and maybe writing them down so you can say them to yourselves, putting them on post-it notes, whether it's putting a post-it note on your mirror, or I believe there's some apps too that will send you some text messages throughout the day as like encouragements. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know I've heard about them. They do exist. So thinking about what is that encouragement that you might need. All right. An example here. So we're going to use the meaning as an example here. Changing how you feel about the situation can help you see things from a different angle or perhaps in a better light. If you change how you view something, it can directly change how you feel. One way to practice this is asking, can you make lemonade out of lemons? Maybe you've heard that analogy before, but it's really, can we make the situation as best as we can? Can we manage with the cards that we were dealt, right? Because there's going to be times when like we can't change a situation or change the outcome and it's hard. And how can we make the best of the situation that we were given? Here are some difficult situations. Practice how you can turn these situations around. Burning a batch of cookies in the oven, being snowbound and unable to leave the house, being on an airplane with a crying baby, getting a flat tire. So examples, so some things that come to my mind when I think about this, burning a batch of cookies in the oven. It sucks, right? Like you get frustrated, it might feel like we wasted time, but maybe you make a new batch, or maybe it gives you an opportunity to connect with somebody by asking for help with your next batch. Maybe your sister's home and she can help you with the next batch. And it actually turns into a situation where you have a lot of fun together. Being snowbound and unable to leave the house. So maybe you aren't able to go to this concert that you want. It got canceled and you're not able to leave because it's not safe outside. But maybe you go and you play in the snow a little bit. Or if you're not a cold weather person like me, maybe you stay indoors and make it a really cozy, comfortable day by reading a book under a really warm blanket, making your favorite beverage like a hot chocolate or a cup of coffee, and would turn it into something a little different, even if it is disappointing that you're not able to go to the event that you wanted to go to. Being on an airplane with a crying baby. Yeah, we can't control that and it's hard, but maybe you just turn up the music a little bit in your earphones. Maybe you watch a favorite movie, and I know it might be hard at times to hear when there's other noises around you, but thinking about how can we make the situation a little bit better as opposed to just sticking in our misery. And then getting a flat tire. Maybe it actually gives you the opportunity to press pause. So while you're waiting for your car to get towed, maybe you call a family member and have an opportunity to connect with them. Maybe you have an opportunity to slow down a little bit, right? Because you're not able to get to where you need to go. And that actually could be grounding, even if it's a hard situation. So those are some examples of how you can make meaning out of difficult situations. All right. Story time here. Mason, him, was in a difficult situation that he wasn't able to physically leave. He practiced imagery by closing his eyes and beginning to think of a peaceful place. He started to envision sitting on the bench of a nearby park. He noticed the weather, colors around him, the smell of fresh air and crisp flowers. Mason worked on recalling as many details as possible so he could work on letting go and escaping to this place in his mind, which helped him when he was unable to leave his current situation. We're going to practice an exercise here, and I want you to, similar to Mason, take a moment to envision your safe place and describe it below. So you're going to take some time to journal this out. You're going to pause this video and thinking about using your five senses, really try to envision this place as vividly as you can. Okay. Now that you're back, I want you to think of what was it like to envision your peaceful place. If you had any troubles, again, bring them to your individual sessions or into your next group and think about even enhance it or make it better for next time. All right. So here are some examples of how you can practice a skill on your own, with a friend, or with a caregiver. With yourself, maybe you create a collage of your favorite things, colors, places, people. Draw your favorite scene that you can look at when you are feeling upset. So using that imagery there. Peer, have a conversation with a friend about the meaning of a difficult situation. Ask your friend if they've ever found meaning from something they have been through and have a discussion around this. How did they get through it? Parent, practice engaging in a relaxing activity with your parent. Perhaps get your nails done together, try a slow flow yoga class, drink some tea or coffee together. All right. And then, similar to the other skills that we learned today, you're going to be filling out these last three questions about what, well, how did you practice with yourself, a peer, or a parent? Was it effective? What did you notice? What was different from practicing improve the moment skills? And then rating your emotions before and after. Okay. So that was a lot of information. Take your time to review it this week. There's just a kind of recap, there's three distraction techniques that we learned today, which are meant to help us in a really difficult or crisis situation. It's distract with accepts, the accept skills, improve the moment, and self soothe skills. So those are the three skills we learned today in our distress tolerance module. They're meant to help us get through crisis situations or to help us not engage in a target behavior or make the situation worse. If you have any questions, please bring them into your individual sessions or to your next group.